first responders emblem a generic one?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, law enforcement, fire, EMS, all have. I mean, and there's something somewhat generic for for those three, but as far as like a badge and a Star Life and the Maltese Cross, but I don't know that encompasses everybody.
Okay.
All right, folks, it's a little after 4. Sound like progress is being made on the memorial. There's some money coming in, and that is a good thing. So, but I want to go ahead and call the special call public safety meeting to order at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on May the 19th. So we want to go over 2 budgets. We have a resolution, and I want to tell you all before we get started, most of you know that I am having surgery tomorrow. If you don't, I'm having a colonectomy and some other stuff done. So I am in the middle of right now preparation, we would say. So if you've seen my screen go blank, I'll be leaving for a little while. Ms. Petrelli's aware of that. She will see that screen go blank and she would just automatically take over the meeting. And maybe Commander Hobbsmeyer's up there grinning. He's probably did this before, so he knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm doing this fall. There you go.
There you go. Well, it's yeah. So you know that you when duty calls, you have to go. So, anyway, my screen. I'm not going to apologize. I'm just going to leave, so you'll know I'm gone.
Wish the best for you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It should all be good. Just got an issue we got to get fixed. And should be back in 3 or 4 days, or at least where I can Zoom. And anyway, I do not have the resolution, Jim, in front of me. Do you? Or the
no, sir, I don't have it right here in front of me. Let me see if I can pull it.
Let me try. I've got it. Let me try to screen share real quick.
Okay, thanks, Russ.
Can y'all see that?
You man.
Perfect.
All right.
It's a resolution declaring equipment owned by the city to be surplus and directing disposal of the same. This is pretty well formality that we have to go through on any kind of equipment we get rid of. What are we talking about, Chief Jim?
Some of these are old patrol vehicles that cost way too much to fix. And at least one of them was a drug seized vehicle that we've used for some period of time for UC work, and it's outlived its life.
Okay, there you go. So I would move, I'm the sponsor, so I would move that we pass that so we can move on to getting rid of those items.
I'll second it.
All right, a second by Mr. Edwards. All in favor, say aye, please.
Do we have to do, do you have to go?
Yeah, we got to do a roll call. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I'm sorry. All right. Mr. Edwards.
Aye.
Ms. Petrelli.
Aye.
And myself, Mr. Brown, would be an aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate that.
Okay, now we want to just take some time and do a little reviewing of some budgets. The first one I've got laying in front of me is police. And I don't necessarily have any format that I want to go by. I would just Mr. Lamar on here. Do we know? I don't see him.
I do not see him.
Okay. He may be tied up here, but he had planned on being here, and I wanted him here. Let's see. I'll give him a quick text. Anyway, chiefs, police chiefs, let's just go ahead and start on page when I've got 59 and just kind of work down through your budget. see what you've got to say. I know everybody's trying to make some cuts because we proposed a budget. We threw out a budget that was just kind of what everybody wanted. And then we got projections from Robert on incomes that kind of rocked everybody's world a little bit. And I know that the CA has been working with you guys, and you have been, we've talked a little bit on both sides of the fence of things we can cut and live without. So let's just see where we're at on police. And I don't have a grant, the 1.3 million grant sheet in front of me. So if you can tell us as we go along what you have asked for and kind of agreed with the city administrator on the grant.
Basically, Steve, the only thing, we had reduced our cars down from 15 in the budget, 5 on the grant, to 5 in the budget. And the understanding is that we're going to try to get 10 more, which would bring it just to a total of 15 from the stimulus.
Okay.
But then as far as the budget goes, we dropped down from 15 to 5.
You're showing salaries and benefits across the bottom line of a total increase of 1.97% is the sheet that I've got.
What page are you on?
I'm on 59.
59. Yes.
No.
We
Regular salaries full-time, you're showing a negative of 8,900. Salaries full-time special. What is that?
Jim, what is that?
That's supplemental pay from the state.
You're muted, Chief.
I think Robert answered, said it was supplemental pay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Basically, we had 5 positions that we had originally asked for, and so we cut those out, of course.
It's pretty tight, 1.97%. Mr. Edwards, Mr. Petrilli, any questions on that top block on salaries and benefits?
I don't have any.
Peg, you studying? Any questions from
I'm
you?
good, thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Operational
Rogers.
expenses. Where you at? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay, operational expenses. Assets under $1,000, you got an increase to 18,890. What is that, Jim? I thought I saw back
Well,
here.
That basically, Steve, is the replacement of computers and printer, which is something we have in there every year. There's $2,000 and something for crime scene cameras. Ours are kind of going out. And then the hard drive for the server is $5,000. That's the main things in that assets under $1,000.
Okay.
And Robert and I talked earlier today, there was an additional 8,600 in there for training equipment that has been removed. We took that out. It may still show on yours, but it's supposed.
Okay.
That was simunitions, Steve.
Yeah, we've taken the cars out. Let's drop down to computer fees. That's pretty well. Computer fees are computer fees. Mr. Lamar, I've got you on the phone. Are you going to join our Zoom meeting, or are you busy? Okay. Okay. See you shortly. Bye. Hey, that's a lot for me doing that, multitasking and talking to you at the same time. So, any questions on the bottom block on 59?
No.
Mr. Trelli,
No,
Edwards,
No.
anybody else, Mayor, Eddie? Okay. just look at total costs and increases, asset request, just to go over those. Computers and printers, $38,000. That's page 63. Crime scene cameras, 3 for $750. That's $2,250. Server hard drives, 8 of those for $625 a piece. Equipment for 5 vehicles, $17,600. Is that in your budget, or can that be put in the grant? Are you leaving it in the budget or trying to move to the grant?
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think they left in the budget the 17,600 for the 5 cars. And then the grant would be the combination of the two. Basically, with the vehicles and the equipment added on them, they're 52,000.
Okay.
That's correct. We originally had 20 cars in our budget and the equipment for those 20 cars. And then we reduced it down to 5 cars in the budget and 5 sets of equipment for those cars. And that was in conversations with Mr. Lamar and Mr. Manning. And we were going to try to put 10 cars in the equipment.
Okay.
Cut out, Jim.
Ruggedized laptops, 10 new laptops, $30,000, and $35,000 for 5 vehicles. It's a total of $355,000. Is that correct? All that correct? Hello, Mr. Lamar. We are on page 63 of the police budget, looking at their assets request.
Yeah, the 35,000, Steve, is each for each car, and then the 17,600 each for each car, each of the 5 cars.
All right. Any questions from either of the committee members?
No.
No.
Thank you. Anything else that you'd like to add? It's, I mean, I've looked down through your budget and I've looked through fire budget. I usually pick pretty hard, but doesn't seem like there's a whole lot there to pick on, you know. Mr. Lamar, would you like to comment on the police budget? I know you've been working with the chiefs on that.
The only thing is, of course, he requested 20 cars to start with, and we cut it to 15, and then we put, if I'm not mistaken, Robert, correct me, we put 10 in the 1.3 million, and then left 5 in the budget. Just trying to get the budget down as much as we could.
Okay.
Okay, is that Dave, is that, how much did you say of that 1.3 million have you proposed to take towards police, apply towards the police?
I believe it's, what page is that on, Robert? It's 500 and something thousand.
Page 72.
Yeah, it's about there.
Ours is 500 and something thousand. There's 11,200 for IT hardware upgrades as well.
Right, yeah, police vehicles, 526.
You good, Russ?
I'm good, and I guess I'm looking at page 58. Is there, am I reading that right, that their request, police's request from this coming fiscal year is going to be 1% less than last year's?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
that's all I have. Thank you.
Finance Chairman, you got anything to add to that? Finance Director?
Nothing to add. Bulk of the decreases are, again, I'm not sure exactly, 15 cars last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's 10 cars last year.
I
So
think it was 10.
No, 15.
Was it 15?
Yeah,
It was 15 last year, and we were trying to go, we tried to go with 20 last year. We cut back to 15. We did put 20 back in this year, but we're back down to 15.
One of the questions I had, and Jim and I talked about this last week during the budget process, is how many of those Crown Vics are on the road? Those 2008, 2009 Crown Vics that are 12 plus years old. And I said, I'd like to make sure those are all recycled out of the program, and there's 25 of those. So I told him if we had to go deeper, I want to make sure that we left at least 10 vehicles in there, plus the 15 he's got this year, to cover that 25 Crown Vics that need to be removed from the fleet.
Yeah, I don't know. The last year they made Crown Vic seemed like it was 2010, 11, something like that. And we've got them older than that, don't we?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And the newest ones we've got are 2008s. We've still got some 07s on the road.
Yeah. Mayberry RFD.
Chairman Brown, may I ask the question? I'm not a member of the committee, but I have a question.
Shoot.
And this is for the chiefs. I have reviewed the drug fund guidelines that MTAS has put out. The budget shows that we're going to leave a year-end balance, I think, of a little over $250,000 in the drug fund balance. And it appears to me, and just reading this today, especially in the expenditures, Part D gives the city some wider latitude to use that money for even purchase of vehicles. So I want to make sure, in not only looking to cut expenditures, but looking for every dollar that may be out there. I just hate to leave with as much trouble as we're in, over $250,000 in a drug fund, if we could use it for some of these purposes to take relief off of the general fund or the governor's line. So just as a general question, have the chiefs looked at that fund, and are you sure that you are using that fund to the maximum allowable law that we can use it for expenditures?
Well, whichever chief wants to. I know we've discussed that before, the drug fund and what that's specifically used for. So I think that's a good question, because Russ may not know, Eddie may not know of exactly how we can utilize that funds. It's pretty well guarded money. So
Jim, you're the drug fund guy, so go ahead.
No, we've typically once or twice in the past we've used that. They're very specific about a one-time non-recurring purchase. There are sometimes some instances where a vehicle can be purchased with that, but buying patrol cars, because that's a yearly thing, to me, that crosses into a real gray area. And I think I had mentioned on my email to you that there's been some agencies and municipalities that have gotten in some serious complications over questionable expenditures out of the drug fund. And what I've always tried to do is just absolutely err on the side of caution when it comes to that. One of the things is we try to anticipate unexpected expenditures for our canine unit, whether that's medical expenses. Obviously, their food and vet bills and boarding and training, those are known expenses. But if a surgery issue comes up, we've tried to leave that in there as a cushion for that. And that's very allowable because they are drug canines. And we try to make sure they get the best care. I've just been very cautious about that because I've seen what's happened in the past with some other entities.
Well, thank you. And I don't mean to be argumentative, but let me read what MTAS has put out as a drug fund guidelines. And this is under expenditures D. And it says non-reoccurring general law enforcement expenditures. Generally, but not always, these are fixed asset purchases. these expenditures do not have to be related to drug enforcement. And then later it says legitimate examples include vehicles, standard equipment for vehicles, body armor, weapon, and computers. So I understand the reluctance of being careful on these expenditures, but it seems to me, according to MTAS, that several of the major expenditures that are in the police department could qualify to use these funds for. So I'll bring it up tomorrow night and maybe we can have a general discussion, but I just wanted to kind of give the chiefs a heads up. It sure seems to me, just reading it, lay Chairman Brown, that we have more flexibility to use this $250,000 in this fund to pay for some of the things that our law enforcement officials need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Good question. I would tell Chief Jones, Chief Miller to have a discussion with the city administrator, maybe if they can before tomorrow evening. Look at that. Maybe be prepared to look at moving some of that money out if that's what Eddie may propose. So it's a good question. Anyone else?
Alderman Robertson, can you email that, what you have from MTAS out, at least to?
I can, or Chief Jones, I mean, you've got the document. Would you mind to share it with Alderman Edwards as he's requested?
Yeah, I'll be glad to send it to Alderman Edwards and Alderman Brown and Alderman Petrelli and Mr. Lamar also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Hey, anything else on police? Okay. Scotty, let's go to your budget.
Okay.
What's your top block? Salaries, cost of new positions. Go all the way down the bottom and to the right, you're in the red 2.66.
Yeah, that's kind of changed from the last one. Of course, I know we took out the 240 for 4 new positions. We were up 2.15. This one we're down 2.66. Robert, I'm not sure, is this counting Judy's open position, even though it's what, 40,000 plus benefits?
It does sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay.
It does count it in the salaries, budgets it as if we will have that position filled all year long. Typically that's best practice because you're not really sure when they'll come on, rather than doing half year. Unless
sure. Well, I mean, I'm going to try to get it on as quick as I can,
sure,
especially when we get in the new building. And I've asked, you and I've had this conversation before. We've got the same amount of people. I'm just not sure how we've dropped 10% in salaries, even taking out the 4 new positions. And I know you explained it to me. It was kind of the grant folks covered some of that, but I'm still a little green as to why we still have that little bit of a drop.
So if the committee will allow, 129,000 in longevity has come out. We've added a new line item. I think the committee members may notice 614 salaries longevity. So that is not so much a reduction, it's more of a shift, and to show sort of that is not really a salary so much as it is a bonus. And then the other portion of that is exactly what your comment. Those grant folks are in prior years, we've done since we get 75% funded, we've put 75% of their salaries in a separate line item. And it ended up where we were doing calculations on calculations manually, and before we did our journal entries to move salaries. So instead of, if it's all the same, instead of putting 2/3 or 3/4 of their salaries in one line item, we put the entirety of the amount. And what we ended up seeing was a good portion of that, even though we expected that to be what, $300,000 of that being reduced, or excuse me, being reimbursed. The entirety of those 20 individuals is about 900,000. So we ended up seeing sort of that duplication come out and put it in a separate line item. It'll go back in, by the way, once this grant is done with, those will just be put back together all in 600. So those will be the same line pretty soon.
Yeah, the longevity is the part that I forgot you and I had talked about. As you see going all the way to the far right, it's not part of the percentage. So if you took out the 2.15% increase and matched it up with this 2.66 decrease, then that would make sense. So yes, that's kind of how I see it as far as being okay with this first block, Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Edwards, Ms. Petrilli. Questions, comments, scratch your head.
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, Mr. Lamar, any comments on first block and on fire?
No, sir. And it's, of course, it's kind of the same thing as police. We took all new positions out because we don't want to have to lay anybody off. So that's going to be a common thread in all the budgets. I think there were 22 new positions asked for citywide. We cut them all out.
Good, thank you. It's not good. I mean, some of those positions we need.
I understand.
But, you know, we gotta do what we gotta do. All right, operational expenses. I just go to the right line, Scotty, is what I normally do. You got 262% increase on assets, $1,000 and up. And I know that's in a sheet back here, but go ahead and say what that is.
Yes, sir. That's for assets 1 to 7,000. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's 644. So in that, we've got our carbon monoxide gas detectors are on their last leg. We're spending money left and right trying to keep those functional. We're asking to replace those. 6 of those at $1,250 a piece. That's $7,500. We're keeping 5 gas monitors, which includes chlorine, because we do have a railway and water systems, HUD and White House Utility that have facilities that have some amounts of chlorine on hand, not as much as they used to, but all of those are kind of on their last leg. We're kind of trying to be thrifty by just doing the 4 gas monitors on the engine companies and do the bigger ones on the truck companies, because we always use 2 for every call. Then you get into our light packages for new trucks, 2 new trucks for $5,500. Then also we've got in there for 1 to 7,000 our ballistic helmets and vests, but I think those were supposed to come out. I think we were going to put those in the governor's grant from what I remember. So that might just be a typo there.
Okay.
Because that was part of what we agreed upon of leaving in for the fire department, the governor's grant.
I think you're right, Chief. If I remember correctly.
Like I said, I don't, in this budget packet I don't have the proposed governor's grant in here. So,
I mean, I can give you a quick rundown. I just don't want to be kind of all over the place. I don't know what you want to finish with, but I've got everything that we asked for in the governor's grant, and then what we were actually granted to move forward with. Not granted to buy or use, but granted right from our meeting with Robert and the CA to move forward with.
Let's talk about 645 a minute, assets 7,000 and up.
Okay.
Explain those.
Okay. That is 2 security packages for stations 3 and station 5. We've had a couple of break-ins at the stations, breaking in vehicles. We put a security system on station 2. That's just one quote. That doesn't mean that we're going to go that. That's the quotes we got prior to the budget time. And that's cameras, and then it's key fob entry on exterior doors. So we don't have, people just walking in and out when they want to. We've had a couple occasions that somebody's walked from the apartments that's been inebriated and laid down the bed that we've had to call the police on a couple of times. We looked up here probably 2 or 3 months ago. We had somebody walk through the bay, take a laptop out of an ambulance and rummaged around a little bit. PD caught that person. So I just think it's time that we step up our security around these facilities, because we do have some high dollar equipment that's very important that we maintain it based on taxpayers and the BOMA and everybody else on the island to buy it.
Right.
Then the only other thing in the 645 is the 2 new staff vehicles for the division chief and the battalion chief. Both the vehicles are currently in. The one we're in now, the division chief's, is a District 5 vehicle that come along with that grant for that boat. It's starting to show its age. If you remember correctly, we took it to South Carolina and we had to replace just about a bunch of stuff with the fuel injection system. And it's really starting to show its age. And then the battalion chiefs are using the old black Tahoe, which has over 120,000 miles on it as well.
Okay, here's a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Push come to shove. Could you drive those two vehicles another year? And I know you can say yes, but you know, is that a good yes? I'll do that, or is that
I'm not
boss, I
comfortable
really
doing it.
don't want to.
I'm not comfortable doing it. I'd be willing to go 50-50 with you if we could just purchase one this year and then maybe look at doing one next year.
Okay.
The one that concerns me is the boat, because the way the grant was written, we're supposed to be able to respond in District 5's territory with that boat if anybody calls for it.
Sure. Yeah, I remember that. Well, that's $40,000. I'd say right now, let's just leave it alone. But if it gets down to where we have to have $40,000 to get down to balanced budget, then I may come back to you.
I mean, if we need to give up 80 to keep somebody on the job, I'm good with that. I mean, the protection of the people is what's most important. I don't care if they take my truck. You know what I'm saying? I'm good with that. But I would really feel better keeping one of them in if we can do that.
Okay. All right.
Scotty, how much did you say y'all are requesting of the governor's grant? Like, what's the total amount?
Our total that we've asked for is $311,000. The Station 3 roof replacement that was in this past year's budget that did get done for $80K. Station 1, the remodeling work, so we don't run into another Station 2. That's our now oldest station. An air compressor for Station 3. We're still operating on a 35-year-old air compressor at Station 3 that does our air bottles. It fills our SCBA tanks up on our truck companies. The fit tester that we have that we run everybody through every year to make sure they maintain their correct seal for their mask. We do have the ballistic helmets and vests in the governor's grant. And then Station 2 and Station 3, some concrete work with the help of Public Works, who's always done very good with us, working in the schedule of getting some concrete work done. At Station 3 and Station 2, Station 3 mainly because that big truck company, when it digs into that asphalt, it eats it up and we end up having ruts. So we're just trying to do a little piece at a time till we get all that concrete. And at Station 2, we're going to run into the same issue with both of those pieces of equipment coming in and out of there if we don't do some concrete on back away from the asphalt.
Mr. Chairman, I just looked, and Scotty's right. We've got the ballistic vest and helmets in the budget, and we've also got them in the governor's grant, so we can take them out of the budget. That $83,610 that's on page 68.
Just FYI, that's not calculating into the fund balance. Any of those duplications, we made sure to remove from that portion. I just want to make sure. Sorry.
Mr. Edwards, any more there?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Robertson, your hand's up.
No, sir. I'm sorry. I'll remove it.
Your hand's not up? Okay. Okay, anybody else there? No other comments? Okay.
No.
I've got a couple that I want to discuss here really quick, and then we'll be done. I can move on to bigger things. I even hate to say that, but I have to. We have talked for a year or so. We talked last year and the year before about maybe making a couple adjustments to some salaries to get people at levels they need to be. That specifically, I'm talking about Chief Bush at this time because he's under the committee's purview, police and fire. Chief Bush has been, how many years you been here, Scotty?
I've been with the city 33. Be
33. Been chief how long?
5 years.
5 years. And was brought in at a level, I think he's Robert, help me out here. grade 26, step 5. Is that correct? Or I'm sure Scott knows exactly. So
That's correct. I'm a 26.5 as we sit.
runs the second biggest department in the city. Matter of fact, both of them are sitting here, police and fire. We have assistant chief in the fire department that is making more money than the chief in the police department, making more money than the chief in the fire department. And Jim Jones, you deserve every dime you've got. I don't know where you're at, but there you're up the top right hand corner. So, but I would like to see us try to get this adjusted where we can maybe feel right about it. I mean, it just feel like your chief ought to be making more than your assistant chief. Not necessarily because one does a better job than the other, maybe just because title, if anything else. But, and I know it's a horribly tough year for money, but I would like to propose to this committee to allow Robert to add in back the salary lines in the budget for the fire department to move. And this is really almost embarrassing, but it's not enough, but it is a movement. I would like to see Chief Bush moved one step, and that's more of a tip than it is anything else. And one step is nothing more than $2,820 in salary and $536 in benefits for $3,357. If you move to another step, that's basically double that. Robert and I talked about that earlier on, but at least that to me would show as a board that we're trying to be fair across the board. I know we've been talking about money a lot lately, educational money, and you know, everybody wants paid for what they're doing. They want paid for what their skills are. And I think those things are important too. So I will open that up to the committee for discussion, but that's my proposal.
Steve?
Peg?
I don't think there's really anything to discuss. I think we just need to move forward with it.
Okay. Russ?
I don't have anything. I mean, if we need to vote, I'm fine doing that. I would just request that Mr. Lamar include that in the budget, include that increase that you've proposed.
Okay, moving the one step. Ms. Lamar, do you have a comment on that?
The only comment I'll say is it's definitely warranted. It's just a tough year, but I still agree. And I was looking back through his budget, and there may be some other line items that we can pull some money out of to make sure that we bump him up where he needs to be. I was thinking two steps, but that's me speaking out of school here. Looking at his budget, potentially he was very gracious and his staff about cutting back. He asked for $445,000 worth of increases over last year. We cut 435 out. I mean, so basically we didn't give him back anything that he asked for. No complaints, no issues. He's taking one for the team, and I say that we find a way that to do that. So that's 2 cents.
Here would be my opinion back to you. You and Scotty know his budget better than I do, which kind of makes me uncomfortable because I've usually went line by line by this time, but I'll do that probably in 2 weeks. I'll still get back going line by line. But if you can find 2 steps in there or find 1 step and add another step to it, I personally think that's fair. I think my other 2 committee members, I won't speak for them, but I believe would feel okay with that too. But I would like for sure at least to see the 1 added because I would personally feel like I'm doing the right thing by doing that toward one of our department heads. And I would feel that way about any department head that they feel like they're where they need to be. So
Can I say something, please?
I suppose since we're talking about you, you probably go ahead.
So how about this as a different proposition moving forward? I really am not comfortable, and I appreciate Mr. Lamar, and I appreciate you and everybody else. I'm really not comfortable taking money from folks in the field doing the work.
Yes,
I'll take moving forward 2.5%. And then with the promise that maybe if things improve budgetary wise, that we look at it again come January of 2021.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Scotty. Yeah, I definitely support that. I think it's well earned.
Thank you, Chief.
And again, I know that's not guaranteed. I know come January, if things are just as bad, it's just like right now, it may not be guaranteed, but I really wouldn't feel comfortable, even though it's just $2,800, taking it away from folks. That's kind of hard for me to explain that I'm getting more money while we're taking something away from them in the field. And that's just not an image that I'm about.
That's honorable, very honorable. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to bring up, but I know we talked about it last year, so I think most of you know me pretty well. I'm not afraid to bring it up, whatever the subject may be. So, Dave, Robert, just fix that the way it needs to be fixed, if you would.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Okay, the only other thing that I have that I think needs to be said. A lot of controversy on masks this week. Let's be honest. Everybody's read about masks, talked about masks, giving masks away, mayor giving away, fire department giving away, mask. Everybody's wearing masks. When you wear hearing aids like I do and you get people in masks, it makes life hard. That's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's the truth. So, and some other issues. I just want to make it clear and understood. And I see the mayor's not in the picture right now, but I'm sure he'll hear this or will. That each and every department head that we have, Chief in the top right-hand corner of my screen, Chief Miller, Chief Bush, who's in the middle of my screen, are supervised and work for the city administrator. Any direction that's given to them, and that's from us too. I don't know if some of you are still struggling with that, but I'm not too bad, but I'm trying to do everything that I possibly can to work through the city administrator, because that's how we set this up. We want the CA to be in charge of our daily operations, our daily employees, what those department heads do. So I just want to make that clear. That's how that's structured. I would ask that everybody that's on here right now, and I think we have 16 participants, honor that, because it will certainly make our system work better. It will be much easier on our department heads, on employees. It'll be much easier on our CA. And I think ultimately it's easier on BOMA when we direct and we work stuff through the city administrator as we set it up a few months ago. So that's my little speech. I don't know that we necessarily need anybody to add to it, but if you either committee member would like to speak, I'll be glad to honor that.
I just had one. I just pulled the city administrators, the ordinance that we passed 2019-14, and it clearly says under section 2, subparagraph 3, that the department heads will report directly to the city administrator. So that would be in complete compliance with our duly enacted ordinances. And I think I'm glad you brought that out, because I think there does need to be a clear chain of command as to who the department heads report to. So I appreciate that, Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. It just make everybody's life easier. And I know it's difficult switching over. It's difficult for all of us, Mayor, all the way down to me and everybody else. So, Ms. Petrelli, do you have anything?
I concur with what both members said. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hayes, you're nodding. You doing all right? Doing great. Mr. Gilly, your face is good. I'm assuming you're sitting on the beach somewhere, probably doing stuff you don't need to be doing. Chief Miller, you need to quit chewing cigars. They're bad for you. They really are. But Mr. Robertson, you have a good night. Tell your wife said hello. Mr. Hobbsmeyer, Commander, have a great day. Thanks for being here, Jim Jones. God bless. I'm going to be out of commission a couple days, but I'll be back by probably Friday evening. Hopefully, I need your prayers. Thanks a bunch.
We're praying for you. Love you.
Yeah,
No doubt. Yeah, anything you need, let us know.
That's right. If you need anything, call on us.
I will.
Good night.
I will. I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to do that. Jolene will get an update, and I've already told Mr. Gilly or Mr. Bolt, I will get my update to them. I passed out to y'all where I'm at, what's going on. My son wants me to start doing FaceTime as soon as I get back in the room. I'm probably not going to do that. It would probably not be pretty, or I probably would not converse very well. So it's not going to happen. So anyway, good meeting. Work on those 2 or 3 things we talked about, please. Thanks again. Good night.
All right, y'all have a good one. Thanks.
We're adjourned.
Night.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep.